G'day guys, Luke here again from Australian Off-Road. Matrix popped up here in the showroom getting ready for handover. So good opportunities to show you a quick run through of the awning. The video that we've had on there is quite old, so we just want to give you a bit of an updated version of that now. So scenario is we've just pulled up, everything's shut, locked down. So this will give you a bit of a run through just on how to operate your awning and how to lift your roof up around your awning. So initially, if we've just pulled up, everything's down. The first things we'd do is we'd pull the clips off the side of the awning, which hold the inner arm together. So they'll be released. Now when we do this, there's a little wheel at the bottom that actually locks the arm in during transit, so it's not moving. So from this being tight, all we need to do is turn this off half a turn. It doesn't need to be spanned too much, because if that does come out, it can cause a few issues. So basically tight to loose. Yep. So same on both sides. Now, the little lever on the side of the awning will pull this towards us, which will then allow us to roll the awning slightly out. So this is the way I always do it and the way we show people on the day of handover. So I tend to roll this out roughly about 1 meter. So this will then allow better access to the roof latches. This is why I always do it this way, which then now we can release the 6 latches, so 3 on either side. Now for the purpose of the exercises, the 3 on the driver's side are already done, so we're just releasing the 3 on this side. Now from here we can enter the trailer, which again, just showcasing our new door, we drop the gas cover down first, undo the 2 top and bottom latches, and then the main latch. Now, due to the top of the door not having a roller anymore, it is advised just to ease the pressure off that awning when swinging this open. And then we can latch the door on, and then that is in its finished position. We won't need to play around with the door anymore. Now, as we can see in here, the Matrix pop top has got a bit of a different lifting system to what the other trailers have got. Due to the fridge cabinet, we have to offset one of the lifters in the doorway. So due to this, the lifter has got a travel position and a lifting position. Now this, as we can see, is in the travel position, which allows us to enter the trailer, which I'll show you in a minute. Once we get in there, we'll then drop this down into the lifting position to give us more leverage to help assist with lifting that roof. So in order to do this now, to get this into the lifting position, we have 2 pins, 1 on either side. We'll release these pins as they're removable. This will allow the arms to drop down, which, as you can see, gives us more leverage then. So we'll lock these into this position now. So it's not really a hard exercise, but it does make a big difference in terms of that lifting. Simple as that. So once this is in this position, we can then grab both lifters. Obviously we've already done as roof latches, so this is now good to lift. Now once the roof is lifted, you will see that this has brought us on and a bit closer because we've lifted the roof up. So from here you can then determine what you want to do with your awning as to whether you're doing a long stay or whether you're doing a short stay. Now initially I'll show you a short stay scenario, which for this exercise we tend to keep the legs engaged on the trailer, just more for security if it does start to get windy. So from this I'll pull the awning down slightly more. So I tend to go around chest height on me, which being that I'm quite short isn't very tall, but you'll roll that down quite far. Now the main exercise, what we're aiming for here, is we need to be able to engage these arms. So the inner arm allows you to hold some tension on this awning. So we'll wind these all the way to the top, which once they get past this grey clip, they lock into position then, so this won't physically come back down now. So we'll do this on both sides. If there is 2 people, obviously you can do a side each. That's how a lot of couples do this. Entirely up to you. So we'll lock them into position. Now from here, this is where you then determine, 1, how far you want your awning to be rolled out as to how much shade you want to achieve, and also your height. So obviously we're not having to do the limbo to try and get under there. So from here we can pull this handle, which will allow us to slide this up and then change the height of this awning. which again, if we do both sides, we can get it parallel then, so it's nice and square. And then if it was windy, for Pete's sake, you might want to wind this in slightly, which all we have to do is we grab the handle and then we flick the lever back the opposite way, which will allow this to roll. Once we flick the tumbler back over on the lever, that'll then lock this in position. Once we've got what we're trying to achieve and we're happy with the heights and the length, you then lock off, lastly, the black wheel which we touched on at the beginning of this. This then tensions the arm, so this will no longer move in windy scenarios, which is what we're trying to achieve in this. So once both wing nuts are locked over, realistically your awning is now set up for a short stay. Now from here, if you then decided you wanted to stay a bit longer or you were going to attach your walls, in order to attach canvas you've got to put your anti-flap kit on there. So this is then when we start to work off our measurements to set the awning up into the correct height and lengths, which will allow us to A, attach the anti-flap kit, and then B, attach canvas if desired. So if we start again, when we're going to come back to this awning to adjust, the first thing we'll do is loosen these wheels back off, which will allow us to move the awning. So both sides. The first thing then I always do is I'll come back to this point and I'll roll this out. Now your first marking is actually on the tumbler itself. So if you have a bit of a look on there, you'll see these two lines which are now lined up. So you've got the outer sleeve and you've got the inner tumbler. The lines on there are now lined up, which in turn, this means that the awning is at the correct length out. So that's always your first marker you're looking for. The second marking we're aiming for is actually on the leg itself, which this will give you the correct height then. So if we adjust this handle up now, we can pull this up to the right height. So the line will be to the bottom of the outer arm. And the pin itself will actually have a marker around where the pin engages into. So same again, we'll do this on both sides. So now we've got the correct heights, we've rolled the awning out far enough and found the measurements on there. So now from here we can then lift the awning legs out and stand the legs. So what I always do here is I always try to keep a bit of motion pointing forward basically. So instead of just standing the leg and allowing this to fall in, we try to keep a bit of tension at that top corner. So for this, we press the little clip in, which will allow us to lift the leg out. And then keeping it on that angle and a bit of pressure at the top, we can then stand this leg and then lock off the black wheel, which will basically support that rail now, so we no longer have to hold that. So same on both sides. Release the leg, bit of tension at the top, stand in the upright position, and then lock this off. Now some people do ask if they can do the measurements, which the last measurement is actually on this tensioner arm, if they can do that at the same time as lifting it out. I personally never do it that way just because I find it too hard trying to pull this out. Being that this is all new, you do have to put a bit of tension on this in order to find the last markings. So for me, I just try to stand the leg first, and then being that I'm a little bit height restricted, as you can see, I tend to get me step. I'll bring the little mat too, which then it allows me to have full control to grab the outer and inner portion of this arm to then find the last marking. So if we slide this out, you'll see on here there's a black marker there too. What this is achieving is this is taking the sag out of the awning itself, so when we come to attach the anti-flap kit, that's nice and taut already. So same on both sides. You can see the sag here that I'm meaning. So we've got a bit of a drape just in this canvas here. Once I pull this tight, this will get rid of that. So we find the marking, we tighten it off. Now all those measurements have been found. The awning is now set up to the correct height and length, which will allow us to attach our anti-flap kit without any problems then. So if we were going to attach the anti-flap kit, just as a bit of a run through for that side, On a matrix, the anti-flap kit isn't standard, so this would be something you would purchase, which I do tend to advise more, because there is little clips that we actually fit onto the roof itself which allow the anti-flap kit to attach to. So obviously if you don't take the anti-flap kit, you don't get the kit put on there, which in turn means if you ever choose to put an anti-flap kit on there or want to attach canvas at a later date, you've got to take the trailer in to get these fitted and get all your markings done. So it's just better to have that done as part of the process. So your anti-flap kit will come as 3 pieces, which if I grab one here, you'll have 2 end rails, which are the bulky ones, and then you'll have 1 center rail, which you can't get mistaken because it's a lot skinnier than these ones. Now these will have Velcro tabs which hold them together. So we'll take the little Velcro tab off. And then if you see, this sleeves in together, so it can only go in one way. So what you're trying to achieve here is you get it together, you get it in position, and then there's a little black wheel similar to what's on the awning itself, which will actually lock this in the correct length. So for the minute, if we just tighten that off just so it's supporting itself so it can't come unattached, we'll then loosen off the latches, which actually help to support the awning once this is engaged. Now this one, as luck would have it, is for the front side. I swear I didn't plan that. So what we'll do first is, you can see we fabricate into this a rope rail attachment, which is where the Velcro is, to allow this to attach to the canvas to seal off your awning. So we'll get that in the correct position first. And then one end of this has got a hook on, one end has got a peg. So the hook end is going to go onto the roof itself, into the little stainless steel clip, which is showing you now. And then the peg will actually go into the end of the tumbler of the awning. So these are handed. You will have a front, you will have a rear, which I do tend to advise to mark, obviously, just so you know which is which when you want to quickly grab one. So if we hook this in now, like so, and then we can swing this up, and again I tend to use my little step on this, so everyone laughs at this little step, but it does come in very, very handy. And then this peg will lock into the hole which has already been drilled into the tumbler. Now once we've got the correct length, we can then lock this little black wheel which will lock this at the correct length and stop it from moving. And then this now, the vinyl is actually sitting into the anti-flap kit. So once we've gripped that nice and tight, we just make sure it's all locked into there. And then we can start tightening these little handles back up just to keep a hold of that vinyl. Now for the top side, it is advised, depending on height obviously, to use a little 2-step ladder. Obviously nowadays you can get your ladders very compact, so they're nice and easy to store. But being that they are quite high, it is advised that it is handy to have one of them. So once these top latches are done as well, you can see how it's gripped onto the actual vinyl itself, which in turn is stopping that from flexing. So once the center rail goes in, which I'll show you now, your center rail will then help support the center as well, which, as I said earlier, you can't get this one mistaken. It looks a lot different to the other 2 arms. But same procedure, one end's got a hook, one's got a peg. This will clip in, and then this will attach into the center hole. Same procedure, once you've locked that in, you'll then tighten this off. So there we've got the front anti-flap kit engaged, we've got the center rail, the rear one would go on as well, but that's exactly the same scenario as this one here. But you can see how easy that's gone on, and this all comes back to finding the markings. So I always advise to my customers, if you're going to be standing the awning or you're going to be attaching canvas, always work to your markings, because it makes this a hell of a lot easier. If you're just doing quick stays, the beauty of this awning is you can keep it attached on the trailer, which then means we don't have to rope or peg it. You can still do it for extra support, but being if you're just doing a quick stop, it's nice and easy to pack it away if the weather does change or you want to pack on and move. So that kind of gives you a good overview, guys, and a bit more of an updated recent version there for you. Enjoy.